Hello and good day. My name is Angelique Dixon. I'm president of the Innogent Alliance, and it's my pleasure to be with you here today to discuss topics that are relevant and important to EHS leaders around the globe. Thank you very much to your hosts, Dank Spurt and Dank Stat, for having me join today, and I look forward to spending a few minutes with you to share some of my perspective and insights around EHS. So as president of the Innogent Alliance, I have a unique opportunity to really discuss trends and perspectives from around the world. So Innogent Alliance is an alliance of environment, health and safety, and sustainability consulting companies that span the entire globe. We have 75 companies that make up the Innogent Alliance, 200 offices, and 5,000 consultants. So obviously there's an extreme amount of diversity and perspective when you look at the breadth of our coverage. So the Innogent Alliance, to give you a little bit of background, was born 20 years ago. So we've worked together for 20 years. 20 years ago, a company in the US was trying to figure out how to support its clients outside its US borders. And they realized they really didn't know how to open offices or to do other expansion that would be outside of their culture or their language. So they began looking for partners, like-minded consulting companies that they could work with to execute and partner with on behalf of their clients. And from that, the Innogent Alliance was born. So obviously, with 75 companies throughout the world, and they range from size from 1 person to 3,000, there is a lot of diversity inherent in what we do on a day-to-day basis. And it does focus specifically on environment, health and safety, and also sustainability. So because I have that opportunity, I appreciate the chance to speak with you today on some of my thoughts about what's happening within our sphere of influence. So first of all, if we look at some of the trends that are impacting EHS, first of all, I think we all are very acutely aware of some of the global mega trends that are impacting all of us in our day-to-day jobs. If we look at the energy costs and energy crisis, if we look at inflation, potential recession, labor shortages, I am seeing across the world that those are impacting all of us. And it's more, they may impact our companies, but of course that trickles down to impact our ability to implement our EHS plans and objectives. We may be short on resources. We may find companies are strained due to energy increases in prices. So all of those mega trends certainly are influencing all of us. But when we look specifically at EHS, I think there are 3 trends that I see that are really impacting us as we look towards the future. The first one is the regulatory climate. Let's face it, we are in a changing world. The pandemic has shifted things, and we're seeing a lot of regulations change. And that is quite a challenge to keep up with if you are a multinational organization. So looking at the regulatory climate in multiple countries or potentially across the globe is no small effort. And when you're seeing changes like we are now, being able to keep up with those, I think, is one of the big trends that impacts all of us within the EHS world. The second trend that I see that's quite impactful is the acceleration of ESG. So obviously ESG as in environment, sustainability, and governance, environment, social, and governance. ESG was always around, but through the pandemic, there has been a real urgency to increase our effort into implementing our ESG plan, looking at our reporting, and all of that I find is really trickling down to EHS leaders. Many times those strategic goals, for example, to be net zero by a certain date, are being set maybe at a very high level within an organization. But as that urgency to meet those goals begins trickling into the organization, we are seeing that the EHS leaders are really the ones that are oftentimes the boots on the ground, looking at how to gather data, how to implement programs and policies that will assist their companies in meeting those goals. And whether that's the health in this social side or its environment, all of those factors are not ones that can be ignored now by EHS leaders. And that's a whole new level of responsibility that's impacting all of us. I think the third trend is really what I would call regionalization. So for many years, we always talked about globalization. You know, things were getting even across the world. We were sort of looking at things on a global scale. I'm seeing that trend shift. So of course, organizations that are multinational must take a global look, but there is definitely a shift to have a more regional or very local perspective. And that is a change from where many organizations and many EHS programs might have been in the past. You might have looked at the global at the top and really pushed those programs and policies out to the world. But now there's a bit of a pushback to say there really needs to be some regional or local input into how EHS is being conducted, managed, governed at the local level. And for some companies, that is going to be a significant shift from previous trends. So I think some interesting challenges for some of us, but then you could say, all right, at the same time, what are some of those opportunities that we see as we move forward? I think when you look at the regulatory climate, it's also a lot about engaging stakeholders. So how are you looking to your local offices' endeavors to really try to think about how you can look at that horizon and understand what to expect? And your stakeholders might be facilities, it might be HR, it might be your legal team, it might be your consultants. That is what we spend a lot of time doing, is helping to look where you anticipate you're going and how that would specifically apply to your company. Because many times we can all read the regulation, but truly understanding how it's being applied at the local level and how it's being administered can be quite different. So I really encourage you to think about stakeholder engagement. I think that is going to be one of the key trends. That also impacts your ESG, for example. How are you moving forward with some of your initiatives? And are they really inter-department? Are you engaging other parts of your organization to really push forward with some of those opportunities that ESG is now presenting? Let's face it, the pandemic really gave health and safety a big boost in most of our organizations. It became business critical. And that's a positive for our future as well. So being able to leverage the publicity or the important role that all of you played from a health and safety perspective during the pandemic does give you a platform to look at how you can leverage that for your goals and aspirations for your own company's goals and objectives. So I think that elevation of health and safety within that pandemic world has been very good for all of us to be able to really successfully administer agenda. And finally, when I look to EHS and the things that are coming as more trends that are starting to be implemented, one of the other areas that I'm seeing is what we refer to in the United States is total worker health or employee well-being. Instead of just looking at an employee for their health and safety and what they're minimally required to do, companies are really being challenged to take the whole experience for a worker. How is their psychosocial or their mental well-being? Is work providing a stress? Even everything from their commute. And so that shift is being driven some because obviously there is a labor shortage in many markets and companies are competing for the same excellent resources. And so I think employees are becoming smarter. They're expecting their companies to really look at the work experience, not just basic health and safety. And those trends may shift. Some of the goals and objectives that you've put in place in the past may need to look a little bit different. They may need to go back to that stakeholder engagement, and it might be more of a partnership, for example, with your HR team or your people team. So those types of shifts in our marketplace are being pushed on us in some degree by the demands of our employees, but also I think is part of that trend of maturation. The pandemic has changed how we look at environment, health, and safety. And so that push towards a total worker health, I believe many of us will be seeing across the globe in different ways. An offshoot of that also feeds into ergonomics, occupational health. Those key areas feed into that total worker health and may impact whether there's the services that you provide on site, whether it's doctors or nurses or other services that might be a benefit to your employees. So some very interesting trends happening in the world today. I think for us, that regulatory climate, ESG, the regionalization, trying to navigate all of those in a constant changing world can be very challenging. So I encourage you, as I said, to engage your stakeholders, wherever those might be, within your organization, even within associations, consultants. Those stakeholders can really be tools and ways to help you manage during some of this, some dramatic change that may be coming within your organizations. And then I encourage you to look at a broader scale of EHS. So engaging with ESG, total worker health, really looking at some of the trends that organizations are bringing to their companies to help their companies be more successful, more competitive, and obviously in the end, more profitable, which is what most companies are looking for. So with that, I really want to say thank you very much for having me join you. I really appreciate the opportunity. I wish you a very, very productive 2 days. I hope that you find it meaningful and you find maybe some answers or some thoughts by engaging with your peers. So thank you very much, and I wish you the best. Thank you.